Kurtov, today's Daf Yomi is Sanhedrin Daf Chav Zayin, Sanhedrin 27. We will start Measures Hashem Yisbarach on the bottom of 26b. The last line. Today's Daf is dedicated for Shemir for the Chayalim. That's all for the Shvuyim and Yeshua for Am Yisrael. The Gemara says, Idmar, now on the top of Chav Zayin Amid Aleph. Eid Zomim, witnesses who came and they testified, and then two other witnesses came and said, you could not have been able to give your testimony because Imanu Hayisem, you were with us in a different place at the time you claimed to be able to testify. So, but here the Gemara is talking about a case where the witnesses testified in Nisan, but then 6 months later, the Eidei Zomimim, the Eidim who are Maziminotam, who say that they are false witnesses, they testified only 6 months later. So clearly they're going to be disqualified as false witnesses, as wicked witnesses. But the question is, at what point? Is it from their initial testimony in Nisan, or is it from the time where they were discovered to be false witnesses in Tishrei? So Abaye Amar Lemafreya Hu Nifsal. Retroactively, they're going to be disqualified. That's what Abaye says. We go back to the moment of the testimony and disqualify them. Rava says, Mikanu Abo Nifsal. Rava says, no. Only from the time where they are exposed as false witnesses do we disqualify them. Abaye Amar Lemafreya Hu Nifsal. We go back to the moment of their initial testimony. Me'ina de'isid rashahu, because from the moment they testify, they're wicked. Torah Amra al tashas yadcha im rasha. Don't place your hand with a wicked person to be a false witness. Lios eid Hamas. And so therefore, al tashas yadcha im rasha, al tashas rasha eid. Means say once he is wicked, he cannot be a witness. Rava says no mikano abon. If so, Rava says only from the moment that he's exposed is he a disqualified witness? Because Eid Zomim is chiddush. The whole concept of Eid Zomim is a novel teaching. It's a chiddush. Because why are we relying on the latter two witnesses? We should rely on the former two witnesses. So therefore, we only have from the moment of the revelation and onward, and so therefore we only are going to disqualify them from the moment that they have been discovered as false witnesses. The Amri, an alternative explanation of Rava, why does Rava say from this point on they're disqualified, is Ikadamri Rabba Nami Kabayas Farole. Rabba really has, I hold like Kabaya in truth, that once you're wicked, you're disqualified even retroactively. But my time Kamar Mikano Abba. What's the reason for that he says only from this point on are they disqualified? Because otherwise the purchasers are going to lose money. They had no idea. They relied upon these witnesses in good faith, and now they're exposed as false witnesses. And so therefore, for this reason, we can't hurt the marketplace. And so therefore, it's only from this point on are they disqualified. My benaya, what's the distinction between the two answers of Rava? One possible distinction is where two witnesses testified against one witness and exposed him as a false witness. So there it's not a chiddush, and so therefore perhaps we should go backward. It's retroactively, even according to Abaye, according to that explanation of the chiddush. Or inami de paslinu begazlanuse. Or alternative distinction is they disqualified him as a robber. They said he was a robber. Oh, this is a bonus. We thought you weren't coming back till Tuesday. So basically is that they disqualified him as a robber, that they testified they testified that they are robbers because they robbed in Nisan. So this is not a chiddush because they're not testifying you were with us in a different place. It's not there. It's not two. Why should we believe these two as opposed to the other two? But rather, they're testifying that these people are wicked, and so therefore that it's not a chiddush, but there's still the loss of the marketplace. And so, according to the one that says it's a chiddush, they would go retroactive. According to the loss of the marketplace, we would go from this point onward. We're on 27a. 27a. So the Gemara says, "Amar Rav Yirmiyah midifti avad Rav Papi uvda kavase de Rava." So he says he rules like Rava, which says that From this point onward, they're going to be disqualified. But Mar Baravashi Amar Hilchos Kavase da Abaye. But Mar Baravashi rules like Abaye that the witnesses are going to be disqualified retroactively. The Hilchos Kavase da Abaye b'yal kagam. And the Gemara says this is one of the 6 cases where the law is like Abaye. When Abaye argues with Rabba throughout Shas, the 6 cases, we'll just say them so everybody should know them. One is yeh or shalom midas. If when it comes to lost object, in which we said in Elam Matzias, if a person gives a pope and we don't know if he gave a pope, can the person keep it? Number 2 is our case of aid zomim. Number 3 is lechaya omimeo. If there's a pole that's standing there with respect to the laws of Erevin. And kuf is kiddushin. If there's a betrothal that's not able to be consummated, is it considered a betrothal? And gimel is whether we know kiwoy das begit and whether we know that the person really intended not to divorce her, but he had made a condition. And then we have the mem, which is what we're about to do here, mumar ochel nevelos lahachas. So that's what a case we're about to do right now in the Gemara. And the next case of the Gemara is, let's say you have a mumar is a sinner, and what's his sin? Ochel nevelos l'te'avon. He eats these carcasses, eats non-kosher food, but not because he likes it better, not because he thinks McDonald's tastes better than the kosher burger joint, but rather it's because he says, listen, it costs less. I need to eat, and it costs less. So everybody would say divrei kol pasul. Everybody would say that person is disqualified to be a witness because Rashi explains since he's doing it for money, because it's more common, he's like a Rasha of Hamas. That's the pasuk says that al tashes yatcha im Rasha lios eid Hamas. He's like a wicked one for money, and so therefore, that's the one who's disqualified. So if he's a mumar with te'avon, everybody would say he's disqualified. Where is there a question? There's a question. Lahachas. Let's say he's not a mumar with te'avon. He eats the non-kosher meat because he thinks, why should I eat the kosher meat? This is stupid laws. So therefore, he doesn't believe in the law. And so therefore, he's what's called a mumar lahachas. So he's intentionally doing nothing to do with it. He has this extra desire for money. He just doesn't believe in this law of kosher versus non-kosher. So Abaye says he's going to be possibly disqualified as a witness because he's a Rasha. Rava says he's kosher witness. Abaye Amar Pasul. Abaye says he's disqualified. Abaye Rasha. He's wicked. Rachmana Amar Tashas Rasha Eid. A wicked person can't be a witness. But Rava Amar Kosher. Rava says he's a kosher witness, even though he's eating the pork intentionally intending to sin. Because who's disqualified as a witness? Only a Rasha de Hamas. Only a wicked one who has a desire for money, an overwhelming desire for theft. That's the person we have to be concerned about to be disqualified. Rasha the Hamas, but and this person is not a wicked one as it relates to money, he's just a wicked one in general. So the Gemara challenges Meisvei al Tashas Rasha Eid, al Tashas Hamas Eid. So it says you cannot have a person who has a desire for money be a witness. El Gazlan and Bishvus. This refers to somebody who's a robber or he violates concepts of oath. And my love, echad shuas shav, echad shuas mammon, doesn't mean he violates any type of false oath, whether it relates to money or just a generally false oath. So this seems to be a proof for Abaye and against Rava that it's not just about money. And Gemara says, no, idi v'idi shuas mammon. No, it means to say he violates oaths as they relate to money. My shuas, and when it says oaths, shuas talmi, violates oaths in general. So it's not a proof it's not a question against Rava. Then the Gemara challenges Abaye Meisvei. It says al Tashas Rasha Eid, al Tashas Hamas Eid. You're not allowed to be a false witness as relates to money. Elu Gazlanin Malve Ribis. This refers to robbers and people who lend money at interest. So we see from here who's disqualified. People who have a predilection, an inability to control themselves as it relates to money. And this is not just people who are wicked in general. And Tiyufta da Abaye Tiyufta. This is indeed a refutation of Abaye. So Abaye's idea here, which was that if you're a false witness, if you're a sinner as it relates to any area of law, you're disqualified. This brisa seems to contradict Abaye. So it's a refutation of Abaye. But remember, we said that this is one of the 6 cases where the law is like Abaye and not like Rava. So don't think that the law is not like Abaye here because we're going to come back to him. So Gemara says, Nema ketanoi. Let's say this dispute between Abaye and Rava about whether or not somebody who eats the pork intentionally or the carcasses intentionally is going to be a disqualified witness. Maybe it's a reflection of an earlier Tanaitic dispute, because we said Eid Zomim Posol Torah Kula Divrei Rebbe Meir. Let's say a person is an Eid Zomim, meaning to say they've been exposed as a false witness. They're disqualified to testify about every area of law. Divrei Rebbe Meir. Meaning to say they can't testify about anything once they've been discovered to be a false witness. That's Rabbi Meir's position. Rabbi Yossi says, when are they disqualified? When are they disqualified in every area of law if they've been discovered to be a false witness about a capital law? But Rabbi Yossi says, if you're going from a more severe law like capital case, then we're going to disqualify you even for a lesser case, like a monetary case. Because once we've shown you to be not careful about a more severe law, we know that you won't be careful even about a lesser law. But just because you violate a lesser law, like false testimony about monetary cases, doesn't mean we're going to disqualify you about a capital case. So our mayor says you're always disqualified, and Rabbi Yossi says no, only from more severe to less severe, not from less severe to more severe. So name Abaye Rabbi Meir. So let's say that Abaye, who says that if you're disqualified in any area, you're disqualified in every area. Maybe he says like Rabbi Meir, Rava, who says that only from the more severe to the less severe you're disqualified. He's going to be like Rabbi Yossi. So look at Rashi, Abaye Rabbi Meir, Ainu Nami Mikul Chumra. But here also in this case of the Mumar Ochel Nevelos Lahachas, the one who eats the carcasses intentionally, is also going from less severe to more severe, because the carcasses are only bad for heaven, but stealing money is bad for heaven. But somebody who swears falsely about money is bad for heaven and bad for people, because he is causing them to lose money with his testimony. And Abaye says he's disqualified. Mishum Nevelos Le'edus Mammon. Abaye is going to say you're going to be disqualified from a carcass to testifying about money. So Abaye says we go from even less severe to a more severe, and that's like Rabbi Meir. So name Abaye Rabbi Meir, but Rava Rabbi Yossi, and maybe Rava, who says we only go from more severe to less severe, but not the reverse, maybe holds like Rabbi Yossi. Abaye Rabbi Meir says the Gemara Abaye holds like Rabbi Meir Damrina Mikul Chumra. We go even from a less severe to a more severe law. Rava Damar Rabbi Yossi, and Rava holds like Rabbi Yossi the Amar Michumra Lakula Amrinan. He says we go from the more severe to the less severe, but Mikul Chumra Amrinan, but from the less severe to the more severe, we don't say it. Gemara says no. Aliba de Rabbi Yossi Kol Yamalo Pligi. Gemara says according to Rabbi Yossi, Abaye would certainly, everybody would agree that Abaye would certainly not agree with Rabbi Yossi. He's certainly not, because since Rabbi Yossi says that if you violate Eid Zomim for monetary, you're not going to be disqualified for a capital case. Certainly, he's not going to say that from a carcass to a monetary case, you're not disqualified. He's not going to say you're disqualified. He's not going to say you're disqualified. And so therefore, according to Abaye, it's for sure at least a dispute amongst the Tanaim. But the question is whether Rabbi Meir has to be arguing with Rava. So Abaye Rabbi Meir, Abaye would say, I certainly can hold like Rabbi Meir, but Rava could say, Ad Kan will come Rabbi Meir awesome. Rabbi Meir says his law by Edim Zomamim, that if you're disqualified for a monetary case, you're not disqualified for a capital case. But the Mamon, the Rala Shemaim, Rala Brios, because money is bad. If you testify falsely about money, then you're bad for the heaven and you're bad for the other human being because you're causing the money. But here, you're not bad for the other human being. The Rala Shemaim, if you testify falsely about, if you eat the non-kosher meat, it's only bad for heaven. Maybe it's not going to disqualify you. No, maybe you wouldn't say it because you're not hurting anybody else. Gemara says the law is like Abaye, that if you eat this meat intentionally, you're disqualified. The Gemara says, but wait, why do we just say the law is like Abaye? So the Gemara says, but why? Didn't we just say it was a two? After we had a brisa that refutes him? Yeah, that brisa that refutes him, Rabbi Yossi. That brisa is only according to the position of Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi argues with Rabbi says, I hold like Rabbi Meir. Gemara says, but so what? But the Avi Nami Rabbi Yossi. Even if you want to say it's Rabbi Yossi, we're a mayor of Rabbi Yossi, Allah Rabbi Yossi. We have a principle that when Rabbi Meir argues with Rabbi Yossi, and Abai told him like Rabbi Meir, the law is like Rabbi Yossi. Gemara says, Shani Hasa. No, generally speaking, the law is like Rabbi Yossi. But this case is different. The Sasa Montana Rabbi Meir, because we have an anonymous source like Rabbi Meir. Where is this anonymous source? Like we're going to introduce how we know about this anonymous source through an extended story. Because there's once a person named Barchama, the Katel Navsha, he killed a person, or they said he killed a person. He was accused of killing. Amalei Reish Galusa or Rav Bar Yaakov. So the Reish Galusa, the head of the community, said to Rav Bar Yaakov, Puka Yinba, if he really did kill somebody, we're going to blind him. It doesn't mean, and maybe, how could they blind him? Either they did extrajudicially because they couldn't kill him, Rashi says, or else maybe penalize him, or else maybe just take his money. But he says, let's see what the real story is. Also, Trey Saadi, so two witnesses came. So two witnesses came and said that Barchama killed this guy. Also, I see Trey Saadi. So Barchama brought two witnesses to attack those two witnesses who testified against him. They said the two witnesses that Barchama brought, they said, listen, they testified about one of them. One of them said, they said, I saw that this Tuchushla. He says, in front of me, they stole this, I saw him steal the barley. And V'chadamar kamedi di ganav kata de borte. I saw him steal like the handle of a spear on the top of 27b. So according to Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi would say that they're not disqualified because they're going from monetary to capital. But according to Rabbi Meir, they would be disqualified. So Amarei Mai Datech. So when he testified, when Barchama brought these witnesses in front of the court, in front of Rav Abba Bar Yaakov, so Rav Abba Bar Yaakov said to Barchama, what do you think? You think that you're going to disqualify them because they testified falsely about money? You want to say Maidatech Rabbi Meir, but it can't be. It doesn't matter. Rabbi Yossi. We rule like Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says that they're qualified for a capital case. So the Gemara says, Amar, who's halacha Rabbi Yossi? Isn't the law like Rabbi Yossi? Rabbi Yossi, Amar, Rabbi Yossi is the one that said, "Who's a medini mamnos kasher dinin nefashos?" Even though he's disqualified for a monetary case, is kosher for a capital case. So Amar Rav Papi. So Rav Papi jumped up to defend Barchama. He says, Rav Papi jumps up to defend Barchama. He says, "Hani miliechad sasa montana Rabbi Meir." He says, when do we say that the law is like Rabbi Yossi versus Rabbi Meir when there isn't an anonymous Mishnah like Rabbi Meir? But there's an anonymous source like Rabbi Meir. Meir says, "Mimai." Well, where is this anonymous source that rules like Rabbi Meir that if you're disqualified for monetary, you're also disqualified for a capital case? What's the source? If you want to say it's from the following source, which is a Mishnah in Nida, whoever can judge a capital case can judge a monetary case. And so presumably, if you can't judge a capital case, you can. If you can't do a monetary case, you can do a capital case. If you want to say that that's the source, who is this source? Rabbi Yossi, we can't because Rabbi Yossi says there's an eid zomin of the false witness about money. The kasho din fashos. He could do a capital case. Upasul din mamros. He's disqualified for money. It must be Rabbi Meir. He must be that it's Rabbi Meir, and we see that there's an anonymous Mishnah like Rabbi Meir. The Gemara says, "Mimai." How do you know that that's Rabbi Meir? Dilma b'psula yuchsin koyin. Maybe that's not referring to somebody who's disqualified because they stole. Maybe it's because we're talking about that they don't have pure lineage, and we say whoever does not have pure lineage, whoever has pure lineage for a capital case, that he has no blemishes in his ancestry, he's also going to have pure lineage for a monetary case. Maybe that's all it's saying. Because if you wouldn't say that, say for the Katani, the concluding clause of that source says, there are some who can judge a monetary case, but not a capital case. Amai in Roy, why would he not be qualified? The Itza Medine Nefashos, Roy Dindine Mamnos. Do you want to say that we're talking about a case where he was disqualified by a capital case, and then he's therefore going to be able to judge a monetary case? So everybody would say that if he But we just says according to everybody's disqualified. So and that doesn't work according to every mayor. So it must be Ella Bepsul Yochsin Kamar. Must be we're talking about a case of disqualified lineage. So that's not the source. Someone tamas. So this is the source where there's an anonymous Mishnah like Rabbi Meir. It's not Eloin Absul. These are the ones who disqualified him. Masachik Bekovio, Malvi Berivis, Mafricha Yonim, Mesocher Shvius, Vavadim. So these are the ones who are disqualified witnesses. This is from, we had this earlier, we had it in Rosh Hashanah, we had it in Erevin. So these are the ones who are disqualified. The dice player, the one who has interest, the bird racers, the people who deal with merchandise, and slaves. Ze'aklal. And the general rule is kol edu she'ena isha ksherla, any testimony which a woman is not allowed to testify about, which basically is almost all testimony. Af hein ink ksherla. Also, these witnesses are not going to be kosher to testify. Now, money, Rabbi Yossi, if you want to say it's Rabbi Yossi, what about a capital case? That a woman is not kosher. It can't be Rabbi Yossi because a woman is not able to testify about a capital case, according to Rabbi Yossi. But these people are disqualified for monetary cases, according to Rabbi Yossi. They can testify about a capital case. So Rabbi Meir here. So this Mishnah is like Rabbi Meir. So Kam Bar Chama. So Rav Papi, he was the lawyer. He wasn't a lawyer, but he just gave a terutzim to exonerate Rav Bar Chama. So Kam Bar Chama Nashki Akari. Bar Chama kissed Rav Papi on the feet. V'kiblei lekarge the koichan. He said, for the rest of your life, I'm going to pay your taxes. Or maybe it means good. Or maybe he said, I'm going to make sure you get exempt from taxes because a Torah scholar didn't have to pay taxes. So Bar Chama took upon himself to pay the taxes of Rav Papi. So now up to the next Mishnah. Elena Krovin. These are the ones who are disqualified witnesses because they're relatives. Achif, his brother. Vachi Aviv, the brother of his father. Vachi Imo, the brother of his mother. Balachoso, the brother of his sister. Balachos Aviv, the brother of his brother. The husband of his sister, and the husband of his father's sister. Balachos Imo, and the husband of his mother's sister. Ubal Imo, with the husband of his mother, V'chomav, and his father-in-law, V'giso, his brother-in-law. But what does a brother-in-law mean? Here Rashi says the husband of his wife's sister. Heinu b'neiim v'chosnein, they and their sons-in-law, V'chorgo, but his stepson, Levado, just him, not his sons and sons-in-law. Rabbi Yossi, Zumishnas Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yossi says this is the teaching of Rabbi Akiva, well, Mishnah Rishona, but there was an earlier Mishnah that taught differently. That says Dodo, his uncle Ben Dodo, and his first cousins, whoever is capable of inheriting from him, meaning to say only his relatives on his father's side, not on his mother's side. And whoever is related to him at that moment, let's say he was married and then he became divorced, he's a kosher witness. Rabbi Yehuda says, even if he has his daughter and his daughter died, and he has children from her, then he still can't testify against his son-in-law. That person is considered a relative. Somebody who you have especially strong feelings for, or somebody who you despise, you cannot testify with. This is the groomsmen during the time of the wedding. Rashi says they are going to be disqualified. What's a sone? Anybody who hasn't spoken to him 3 days out of enmity. And Amar, so when Rabbi Yehuda said this, they said, we don't suspect the Jewish people of testifying falsely because they're in a fight with somebody. Gemara says, what's the source for this idea that relatives are disqualified? The Tana Rabbanan, it says in the Brisa. Well, Yumsu Avos Abanim. It says in the pasuk that a father shall not be put to death for the sins of their children. Well, Yumsu Avos Abanim. Ubanim will Yumsu Avos. And children should not be put to death for their father's sins. Or what's the pasuk teaching? If you want to say that you're not going to put to death fathers for the sins of their children, or children for the sins of their fathers, all right, Kvar Nemer, it already says in the pasuk. Ishbachato yumasu. It says in that same pasuk, a man will be put to death for his own sin. Elalo yumsu avos abanim. What does it mean that fathers will not be put to death for their children? Be'edus banim. They can't die from the testimony of their children. Ubanim yumsu avos be'edus avos, not from the testimony of their father. The Gemara says, "Ubanim ba'avon avoslo." The Gemara, first of all, has a tangent. Sons are not put to death for the sins of their fathers. You say everybody dies from their own death, from their own sin, and sons don't die for the sins of their fathers. Baksiv, it says in the pasuk, "Oked avon avos abanim." You visit the iniquity of the sins of the fathers on the children. So you are put to death for the sins of your parents. The Gemara says, "No, hasam kasha ochsen ma'aseh v'sem yadei." That's where they continue the actions of their fathers. Keditanya. As it says in the pasuk, also you will be put to death for the sins of your parents, but that's where you continue it. Where the children, Rahmano Atzlan, continue the sins of the fathers. Maybe it's even when they don't continue it. When it says each one will be put to death for his own sin, that's only when they continue. Gemara says, "Vilo, is it really the case that they're not punished for each other's sins? That each one will be punished on account of his brother. Everybody is responsible for each other. What do you mean you're not punished for your brother's sins? We see from this passage that everybody is punished." Gemara says, that's where they had the ability to object, but they did not object. So therefore, they're going to be punished for the sins. Okay, this is today's daf, a beautiful daf. Yasher koach. We'll stop here.